Welcome to Fishing with Gene. Let's talk about crappie fishing. Crappie fishing is a blast because, one, they're an awful lot of fun to catch, but two, I love eating crappie. They're terrific. And one of the things that we all have to keep in mind about crappie fishing is that crappie school up, and there's hundreds of them in a school. So when we find them, that's the key, when we find them, there's a lot of fast and furious action, and it's an awful lot of fun. So let's talk about where we're going to find the fish and what lures we're going to use to catch them. Now in the springtime, the crappie are going to move shallow. You're going to find them in coves, some of these shallow, flat coves, because they're thinking about getting ready for the spawn. So you're going to be fishing in less than 10 feet of water, and the crappie like to hide along shoreline cover. So if you're fishing from the bank or from a boat, you want to use your eyes and you want to take a look for brush, wood, rock piles underneath the water, any kind of dock or a boat that's sitting there. That's a great target. And what I like to do in the spring is I like to use a float rig. So I'll start with this float rig. I've got a bobber, a split sinker, I've got a hook, and then I'm using the Berkeley crappie nibbles. You just take a pinch of these out of the jar, put it on the hook, and throw it on out there, and you'll be all set with that. I also will swim a small crappie jig head with a 1.5 inch grub put behind it. I'll cast it out near those targets we just mentioned. I'll let it sink for maybe 2 or 3 seconds, and then I'll slowly reel it back. You'll catch an awful lot of fish that way. Now, in the summertime, things change dramatically for crappie. The water warms up, and the crappie like to move deeper. Generally, they're in 15 to 20 feet. So I'm going to use my boat, or if I'm fishing from the shore, I'm going to go to those steeper banks, maybe near a bridge. And what I'm looking for is 15 to 20 foot depths, and I want to see if there's brush in the area or a rock boulder pile, something like that. And I'm going to attack those fish with vertical jigging. So what I'll do is I'll direct tie onto my line a small jig head, and then I'll put a Berkeley 3-inch minnow on there, or I'll tie directly to a marabou jig. And what I do is I cast it out, I let it drop straight down to the bottom. I'll look for cover like a cement piling on a bridge or standing timber along a creek channel, and I'll let the lure drop all the way to the bottom, and then I slowly will reel it up until I get a strike, and that will tell me what kind of depth they're at, 18 feet, 16 feet, and then I'll try and catch as many of them as I can. Now in the fall, it gets exciting because as the water drops, the crappie get together really tight, they form bigger schools, and the action is great. In the fall, structure, the bottom itself is very important. So the two types of structure I like to look for are shallow coves and points. And then when I find those, I want to find cover. I want to find cover on those two pieces of structure. So I'm looking for a boat dock. I'm looking for a boat slip. I'm looking for any kind of wood or brush pile that they could be hiding in. And I'm going to go back to my jig head with my 1.5 inch grub behind it. I'm going to cast it out near those targets, let it sink down 2-3 seconds at the most, and slowly reel it back. The last two things I want you to remember is that all season long, crappie love wood and they love brush pile. So whenever you see those, you want to make sure you fish them. The second thing is, bobbers are not for beginners. This is a great way to catch crappie. So you tie yourself on a float rig, get some Berkeley Gulp crappie nibbles, put it on out there near those targets we talked about, and you're going to have yourself a much more successful crappie season.